Hi, this is Farida Lavangee. I am a director at Turning Point Chartered Accountants. Today, we're discussing one of the key things that I've mentioned quite a few times, but it's something that is close to our practice where we're trying to empower nonprofit organizations. And we want to look at what are some of the challenges that nonprofit organizations face when it comes to an accounting perspective. Working in this industry for the last 7 years now, I think one of the key things I've seen is that a lot of nonprofits struggle with getting meaningful information, getting information in a timely manner, purely because from an accounting perspective, they are using very old systems. Some are using Excel, some are using some older accounting systems such as Pastel, or even some of them are using things like Sage, but then the information is not readily available, or it's not available in a format that they can use. So they eventually then struggle with generating management accounts, monitoring their performance against their budgets, also providing funders with information that is required. And also another thing that they do struggle with is because they don't have the information available in the format that they need, it then becomes a time-consuming effort. So even if they do capture accounting transactions on a monthly basis in whatever format that they're using, they ultimately then have to spend a lot more time taking that information and putting it into a format that they need. For example, if we're looking at a donor report and they now need to compare their actual results against the budget for that specific project, for that specific donor, often their accounting systems that they're currently using doesn't have the budget in there, or they're not capturing on a donor basis or a project basis, which means then you have one person who has to then sit on the back end, now taking the information from the accounting system, sifting through all of that, and then putting it in a format that is required. So it's a lot of manual work that often happens, which then means it's time consuming. And often we also find that in a nonprofit organization, the person that is doing the finance role, they also have other responsibilities. So it then has a knock-on effect for the organization itself, because you have this person having to spend so much time on something that can actually be done quite easily if software that can assist the organization is used. So I'm going to talk about now a software that we actually make use of as a practice, where we are using it personally for our individual accounting companies that we are running. And we also use it for the nonprofits that we work with. So we're going to discuss how Xero can help nonprofits with this problem of having an accounting system that's not assisting them. So one of the key things with Xero is that it is cloud-based. So one of the days where you need to have a backup, and then if you make a mistake, you need to go and restore that backup. And with accountants changing or people changing in roles, backups are not always saved properly. And so there was always this problem where information could be lost quite easily. So Xero is one, it's cloud-based. It's much more cheaper than some of the accounting packages that are out there, purely because you're paying one license fee. It's for the organization as a whole. So you're not paying per user, which I know some softwares are like that. Being cloud-based, you can access it from anywhere, literally. So you just log in. As long as you have internet, you can log in by your computer, your tablet, your cell phone. So you're not restricted to being in your office using the desktop, because if you had a desktop license for some of your packages, then you could only use it from a specific space. So that's obviously from a finance perspective, how can it help the organization? But if we look at from an actual operational perspective, how can it add value to your organization itself? So there's quite a few nice features that Xero has. One of them is called tracking categories. So basically tracking categories, or if we could use it in terms of how a nonprofit could benefit from it, it has the ability for you to report all of your income and all of your expenses by tracking them against a specific donor. You could track them against a specific project. And what that will allow you to do is you can literally run a report. If you want a report of income and expenses per donor, it's at a click of a button. If you want a report showing income and expenses for a specific project, it's at a click of a button. So that allows for more meaningful information, more timely information. The other nice feature, which nonprofits can benefit from, is the ability to add in multiple budgets. So you can add in an organizational budget, you can add in a donor budget, you can add in a program budget. And again, because you are capturing your information according to donors, according to programs, you can then run a report to compare your actual results against your budgeted results, again, at a click of a button. There's some other nice features which are not an additional cost. For example, fixed assets, which I know personally from working with nonprofits as an auditor. Fixed assets is a huge thing in organizations because generally there is no fixed asset register, or there's an asset register that is maintained in Excel, because historically some of the older accounting systems, if you wanted fixed assets, it was at an extra cost. With Xero, you could have your fixed asset register in Xero. You can import your previous data from whatever format you have it in, but it helps you from the sense that, okay, if you need to do a disposal, it's so easy to actually do the disposal on Xero itself. It does all of the journals for you. It does the calculation. Obviously, you have to put in some of the key information. It also allows you to run your depreciation on a monthly basis. So your accounting records will always be up to date. It also has features whereby if you've purchased, say, a laptop, Xero will, on the back end, suggest to you that this needs to be added to your asset register. So you don't have to go now and think back, okay, when did I purchase assets? I need to put it on the asset register. I need to depreciate it, because historically, nonprofit organizations only updated their asset register, if they do actually, at the end of the year, right? So it's something that they have to go back and check the accounting records and then now do the depreciation calculation manually. So those are just some of the key things that are just from my experience of working with Xero and running accounting software, or running the accounting function for nonprofit organizations using it. Those are some of the benefits that we have seen. We have some clients where they can run the reports themselves, because with Xero, we can give you access, or you'll have access along with whoever else needs access to the system itself. So you don't have to actually now wait, okay, I need to contact my accountant to email them to say, okay, I need this report. If you are on Xero and if you are working with us, what we normally would do is we would train you initially. So we would show you, okay, this is the features of Xero. This is how you access the information that you will need for your functions, right? So therefore, you don't have to wait anymore. Another nice thing with Xero is obviously there's live feeds. So if you're banking with some of the more common banks like Standard Bank, First National Bank, ABSA, Xero has an agreement with them whereby the bank transactions automatically pulls into it. So you don't have to now wait for the bank statement to come in for you to actually update your accounting records. So your accounting records can actually be updated on a daily basis, right? From a security perspective, they obviously have got proper security protocols in place between the banks and Xero itself, and the information only comes in one way. So it's only pulling in information from your bank account. You cannot make payments from Xero. Another feature that would be excellent for nonprofits is the fact that Xero integrates with SARS from a VAT 201 perspective. So historically, if you were doing your VAT return, you had to calculate, or you had to run your report from whatever accounting system that you were using. You then had to log into the SARS e-filing profile and manually complete the VAT 201. Xero now has, for the last year or so, they have a feature whereby their system integrates with the SARS e-filing system. So you could now, at a click of a button, again, submit your VAT return to SARS, and there will be no errors because it's automatically pulling all of the correct information in, and you can file the VAT return. And because most nonprofits are obviously in a refund, then your refund will come through timeously, right? So it's saving you money, obviously, because it's a nice software which is cheaper. It's saving you time because it's freeing up your accountant or whoever is doing the finance at your organization to actually now run these reports quicker. It's also reducing the risk of errors because from a VAT perspective, I've seen so many times where clients put incorrect information on the VAT return. So there's that aspect. There's timely collection from SARS because your VAT return can now be submitted on time and you can then get your refunds quicker. And another feature that I just thought about now as we were talking is journal entries. So if you're an accountant out there and you're listening to me and you're using an accounting system which I'm going to use Pastel as an example because I personally used Pastel a few years ago before we moved on to Xero. And I used to hate it because if I made a mistake in my processing, which we all do, we are human, so the risk of making an error is there. If I made a mistake, I had to go and do a journal entry to correct my mistake, or I had to restore my backup, and then it would just be time consuming and frustrating for me. With Xero, if you make a mistake on your processing, say for example, you allocate something to the wrong account or to the wrong donor, you don't have to now go and do a journal entry. You can actually go into Xero, edit that actual transaction and correct it. Xero will log the time and the name of the person that has made that change. So it'll always be there in the history for you to see. And if we are talking about journal entries, it's very easy to do a journal. You could, for example, a typical journal that most nonprofits would have to do is the year-end deferred income adjustment, which is basically recognizing how much of their income have they not spent. In Xero, you could raise those journals, but you can also put in a feature which says, okay, I want this to auto-reverse. So another example would be if you're doing accruals, you would raise it on a monthly basis or you would raise it at year end, and then you could click on auto reverse and it will reverse the journal for you in the next year, which is something we also see in organizations where maybe year end journals are not done or they're not reversed when they should be. So I think if you think about all of the things that I've just mentioned, which is quite a few things, you'll see how Xero can actually save you time, save you money, and make your life a lot more easier if you are handling the finance role in the organization itself. I'd like to talk about now how Xero can actually be a cost saving for an organization itself. So historically, if you're working on a software such as Pastel, you would pay per license. So that's per user. Some of the other softwares that you also have available, they are annual license fees that you have to pay upfront, which gets renewed. But from a Xero perspective, what we find quite interesting is that one is obviously it's a lot cheaper. You're paying for the organization itself. So you're not paying per user. You could have multiple users with different levels of access that they have to the Xero file itself, and it would be fixed. As a nonprofit, you qualify for a lifetime discount of 25% per month. And I know Xero always is continuously running specials whereby an organization can get a further discount. We currently have a promo in place where I think we can get you a 50% discount for 12 months and then a further discount after that. Another nice saving with Xero is the fact that you pay one subscription for the organization itself, and you don't pay additional fees for modules. So for example, the fixed asset module is something that in Pastel you had to pay separate for, which is why a lot of organizations wouldn't take those modules on because it became costly for them. So, and one other great feature is the fact that it's cloud-based. So you can access it from anywhere. So it also indirectly has a cost saving because you're not restricted to working from your office. So it saves time, and we all know that time is money. So one of the great features of Xero as well is that because you have access from anywhere, from any device, it does help with efficiencies, which ultimately then also helps with cost saving for an organization itself. So that's why I've been talking about how Xero can assist an organization or assist a financial accountant, the person who's doing the processing, how it can make their lives much easier. But I'd also like to touch on how Xero can also help somebody who just wants to pull a report. So they're not involved in the day-to-day processing itself. So typically maybe your board members or senior management in an organization that's not actually involved in the day-to-day accounting. Or if we're looking at clients that have outsourced their accounting to somebody that uses Xero, like ourselves, where we use Xero and we do processing for nonprofit organizations on a month-to-month basis. So typically, if we are doing your accounting for you, what we would normally do is, before we even start with the processing, we would take you through Xero. So we would have a meeting with some of the key people. So the people that are going to have access to Xero, that are going to want to use it, and depending on their different roles. So we would show you what are some of the key functionalities for your role itself, how you can pull reports quite easily. I want to talk about a client of ours that was on Pastel a few years ago. We took on the accounting work, and we did also run them on Pastel because that was back when we were using Pastel as a practice itself. And we then moved them over to Xero, I think now maybe 2-3 years. And we've trained the manager or the director at the organization itself. She actually just called me the other day to say, okay, she's wants to pull a report. And she obviously hadn't done it before, and the training had been a while, so she wasn't too sure how to run the report itself or what to use. So I did a quick, like, 5-minute call with her, and she then mailed me back to say, okay, I'm so glad you showed me this because I was able to go in and run the report myself. I didn't have to wait for Turning Point to respond, or I didn't have to, gone are the days where you have to sit and wait for the accountant to respond to you to pull a report if you need it. And because her processing is done with bank feeds, her transactions are on a live basis. So she was able to go in and extract that information herself for something that she needed. So I think that's one of the nice things about Xero itself, is that you don't actually have to be the accountant to use it. A lot of times you've got treasurers who are not involved on the day-to-day basis. They could have access to Xero. They could pull the information that they need if they want to check on something, if they want to prepare for a meeting. So that's one of the nice features of it, is that the accessibility to people. And obviously it is dependent on whether you are putting in all of that effort in getting the system set up properly. So setting in, obviously, your tracking categories and ensuring your bank feeds are set up, and obviously then doing your processing on a regular basis. So lastly, I'd just like to highlight that we are going to be running workshops in Johannesburg, Cape Town, and Durban during November, where our focus area will be on controls, reporting, and we will be touching some of the topical issues such as IT3D. So you can check out our website to make a booking if you are interested. So please go and do that. And just in conclusion about how Xero can improve things for your organization itself. If you are using another accounting system, my advice would be is just to step back and think, okay, is your system providing you with meaningful information? And is it actually saving you money? If you have concerns or doubts, I would then say contact me, and we can take you through a demo of Xero, and we can just show you some of the things that I've been speaking about today and how it can make your organization's finance process much more simpler and much more efficient. Thank you.